Today's News Talk. This is TNT Radio.
It certainly is, and we appreciate your company. Currently, over half of Australia is subject to native title claims. Yet less than 3% of Australians have had a say in this matter. The vast majority of us are excluded from participating in the process. Yet vast areas of Australia are falling under native title rulings before the courts. For example, last Wednesday, the National Indigenous Times referred to the Federal Court of Australia rulings of the same week, which included more than 1,765,000 hectares of Cape York. 1.7 million hectares. Well, my next guest will discuss this and more. Malcolm Roberts is a Senator for Queensland in the Parliament of Australia for Pauline Hanson's One Nation. Prior to parliamentary service, Malcolm was successful in business. He led the operational development of Australia's largest and most complex underground coal project, which successfully set many industry firsts. He has an engineering degree with honours from the University of Queensland. Malcolm Roberts, welcome back to TNT.
Thank you, Chris, and it's good to be back. And tell me, mate, I've got to find out, where are you right now, and are you shivering, and can you send us this global warming, please?
Yes, I'm sick of this global cooling. I wish it'd hurry up and get warm. It's amazing. And in June, mate, we had July temperatures in June.
Yes, and you know, if you can't fix the warming straight away, send us a few farting cows, mate, and we'll take care of it.
Yeah, that'll do it. The National Indigenous Times says more than 1.7 million hectares of Cape York is to be returned to traditional owners. But when the first fleet arrived in Australia in 1788, there was no form of land ownership on the mainland by Aboriginal people. Therefore, isn't the term traditional owners factually wrong?
Correct. Chris, you've done your homework. The Mabo decision. Well, first of all, when a country comes into another unsettled or another nation or another territory, when it comes to new territory, let's put it that way.
Yep.
As the British did back then, they first have to find out if the original inhabitants have any series of property rights and property ownership, and that they can hand down from generation to generation, and that they can keep you out of that land. The mainland did not. Now, if they have that system, then they have to do a treaty. So there's no need to do a treaty. The British did nothing wrong. But on Mabo Island and a couple of other islands, I think in the Torres Strait Islands, there is such a system. So they had a valid claim.
Right.
But the government extended it right across the country, which is a falsehood. So there should be no native title. But the second thing is, Chris, let's just accept that there is native title for now. Mm-hmm. Then a lot of people in the cities think that, oh well, the Aboriginals have now got their land back thanks to the 1993 Native Title Act. Rubbish. I've been across all of the Aboriginal communities and other communities on Cape York. Sometimes 3 times. I've been to Northern Territory communities. The chief complaint we have from the Aboriginals on the ground is they cannot get land tenure. What happens is, this has been in the preamble to the Native Title Act. It's only 2.5 pages. The United Nations organizations and treaties are mentioned 6 times. This is a land grab to take the land off the existing people, lock it up in prescribed body corporates that are basically robber barons that control the land. The people on the ground, the Aboriginals on the ground, do not get the land. They have not got the same rights that you and I have to a freehold or a house block, or that they can then put as collateral for a loan to start a business. They haven't got the basics because their own prescribed body corporates are holding it back from them. They're acting like robber barons. This is all a scam.
Right. On July the 8th, the New South Wales Court of Criminal Appeal ruled that prosecuting authorities must negate applicants' native title claims in cultural fishing cases instead of putting the burden of proof on defendants. Now, legal experts believe the ruling could set a precedent for cultural fishing cases right around the country. What dangers do we face in native title and sea rights, Malcolm? Will our fishing industry be at risk?
I think it will be, because although they can take out leases. You know, so many of these native title claims, in the case of the one I went out west, 4 hours out west to Tubia, and it's near Goondiwindi. You're familiar with that, no doubt.
I do.
There's a claim there by the Big and Bull people. But the historians, the cultural historians, the local Aboriginals, the locals who've been there hundreds of years, say that the Bigambals never owned that land, never inhabited that land. It was the Gamilaroi.
Right.
And at Deebing Creek, just south of Ipswich, a similar thing happened. The people from Deebing Creek did inhabit that land, but someone from New South Wales came up, a family from New South Wales came up and claimed the land, and they did all the dealings with the Ipswich Shire Council. There is so much rorting going on. There have been court cases over it. The wrong people claiming native title, the wrong people then being given. Basically, it depends on the type of land you're given, exclusive or non-exclusive rights. It's too much to go into, but basically, it's a land grab by individuals because they can turn it, if they get exclusive title, exclusive native title use, exclusive use, then they can turn it into commercial processes, commercial operations, mining, agriculture, fishing, presumably. So there is a lot to be had here, but people are rorting the system.
And let me guess, the federal Labor government doesn't want to know about any of this. They don't want to get into the way of any minority group, no matter what chaos is going on.
Well, you guessed it right, and the Liberals weren't much better. The Labor Party under Keating introduced native title, and as I said, they told the lie that it's now fixed. No, the Aboriginals are not getting the land. Prescribed body corporates getting the land, but mate, if you can sniff this out, then surely you can find those farting cows for us.
Yes, exactly. All right, I want to talk about a little bit on COVID. Health Department records show some pathology companies rorted Medicare during the COVID panic. Documents obtained under FOI laws show some pathology companies made potentially opportunistic claims to bill extra flu and RSV tests to Medicare. One doctor requested 21,000 tests in a single day. Are we going to get to the truth of this?
Well, look how much the trouble the ABC had to go to get the data, and then it was redacted. But you're right, and the Department of Health and Aged Care, it really is trying to hide something here. 21,000 prescriptions for a test by one doctor in one day. What was that? I saw the cost in the newspaper article, $1.5 million or something like that. I mean, this is ridiculous, but the Department of Aged Care, Healthcare, former Secretary of the Department of Aged Care and Healthcare, is now, what does he call him? Calls himself a health economist. He said this is systematic and it's massive, and that's why it was covered up, and the ABC couldn't even get at it.
Wow. So this could be anything.
Yes. Yeah, it could be everywhere. And the other thing to remember is that there are some doctors who are really decent and they're held before the Professional Services Review Scheme, being chasing the doctors. And the Professional Services Review Scheme is prosecutor, judge, jury. There is no appeal on the merits of the case, on the facts of the case. So they're dealt with extremely harshly sometimes. Now, let's face it, there are some crooks amongst all professions, including doctors. And we need a Professional Services Review Scheme. But it has been unfair in chasing doctors. And while it's chasing some doctors, it's letting the real crooks get off the scheme. So, and you've also got AHPRA, the Australian Health Prudential Regulatory Association, Professionals Regulatory Authority. It's also hounding doctors. So we've got a complete corruption at the top. AHPRA is not doing a good job. It's hounding doctors to suppress doctors. Then you've got other doctors getting away with it.
Just wrong. It is just wrong, but also so unequal. Now, I want to talk about renewables. South Australia has just locked in federal funding in an effort to become first grid in the world to reach 100% net wind and solar. Now, that's not the truth. I know what you're about to say. The funding deal through what's known as Renewable Energy Transformation Agreement means that the federal government will underwrite a minimum 1 gigawatt of new wind and solar generation capacity and another 400 megawatts of storage to ensure it meets its target of 100% net renewables by 2027. This is impossible, but you tell the truth. That is not what they rely on, because when that doesn't work and there's no wind and there's no sun, they use generators and they take coal-fired energy from other states, don't they?
That's right. They've got extension cable going to Victoria, and I think there's one under construction to New South Wales. The problem is going to be when Victoria shuts down its coal-fired power stations, and New South Wales does the same. But the real truth here is, on the night that the Minns government, Labor government, was elected to the state government a couple of years ago, the energy minister, the incoming energy minister, Chris, you probably remember, she raised it, we might have to extend Eraring's use.
Yeah.
Because they knew then that you can't operate without coal or some hydrocarbon fuel, coal, oil, natural gas, or uranium. And so, sure enough, they've been subsidizing solar and wind massively and raising electricity bills to do so. And now they're saying, and they've been penalising coal. Now they're going to subsidise Eraring to stay open longer than expected. And so, and then they're also paying energy relief funds to consumers, including wealthy people. So we've got subsidies flying everywhere, and the only people making money out of this in a big way are the parasitic billionaires. The people who are making money off solar and wind turbines. And by the way, the most astute investor that's ever lived is Warren Buffett. He's getting on in age now, but he's got a phenomenal record. He said some years ago, wind turbines are a hopeless investment, terrible. Subsidised wind turbines, now there's a wonderful investment. Yes. We've got massive solar and wind complexes in northwestern Queensland, in Western Victoria, that are not even connected to the grid. These people have no clue what they're doing. They're driving us over a cliff, and they're wearing a blindfold. They don't care. And Richard Marles has refused to rule out that the cost of this transition, which Chris Bowen says is going to be the biggest transition since Industrial Revolution, Richard Marles has refused to rule out that it could cost in excess of $1 trillion. I think Dutton said that it'll cost $1.3 trillion. Independent analysis has said it'll cost over $1.5 trillion. We cannot afford this.
No.
We're going to lose. The Australian Energy Market Operator has said that we will be facing severe blackouts in New South Wales at the end of this year.
Of course we will. Of course we will. And rural Australia is going through that right now. But can I ask you this? Why doesn't someone ask the question from the Canberra gallery of Bowen and Albanese, and what will be gained by getting to net zero? What impact will Australia make to the temperature of the planet, Malcolm?
Well, Chris, you left out a name. You left out Peter Dutton.
Oh, yeah, right. Because he's
Dutton,
on the same train.
Exactly. He's tried to create a differentiation, and we welcome him joining us and calling for a debate on nuclear. We welcome nuclear, but the fact is that he's justifying nuclear on the basis that that's the only way to get to net zero. He has just thrown every coal miner under the bus.
Yeah.
And net zero is complete crap. But look, mate, I've asked every major energy agency
I've watched the hearings. You've asked the same question over and over again, and they can never answer it.
No, they can't. Not only can they not give me the scientific evidence, the empirical scientific data within logical scientific points proving cause and effect, they can't show that carbon dioxide from human activity needs to be cut. In fact, they've admitted that there's no danger, and they've never said there's any danger. That's the CSIRO. But in addition, I've asked the energy departments, and there's a bloody million of the things. They're alphabet soup. I've asked them for the basis for policy. Now, the only basis for policy, Chris, if you're going to cut carbon dioxide output from human activity, is to have the impact, the quantified impact per unit of carbon dioxide. So let's take a gigaton of carbon dioxide from human activity. What's the impact on temperatures, on severity, drought, on all
Show us the data.
Activity? Show us the data. That's the policy basis. Forget the lack of science, but just look at that. Now, not one agency has been able to tell me what that data is, not that policy basis is, not one. That means you cannot assess options for different ways of going about cutting carbon dioxide.
Exactly.
You cannot do your cost-benefit analysis. You can't do your business case. And you cannot track progress. So Bowen, Dutton, Albanese, and Greg Hunt and Malcolm Turnbull are driving us off a cliff. They started us down this track, driving us off a cliff, and they're blindfold, and they have not got a clue. But the other thing to remember, Chris, is every major climate and energy policy and initiative in this country has been started by the Liberal National Party. Every one of them. Kyoto, Paris, the whole lot.
True.
Net zero, it's the Liberal Party.
One quick one before we let you go. I want to talk about the CFMEU. Queensland Premier Stephen Miles is under pressure to cut financial ties with the CFMEU. I noticed that the Victorian Premier has said that will occur, that they have been slow to do so. No word from Anthony Albanese about this, but Stephen Miles, I understand you have other concerns with the union in connection with wage theft in mining the sector, because you've mentioned this about a couple of months ago to me.
Yes, we've been chasing it now for just on 5 years, a little bit over 5 years, 5 years and 2 months since the miners in the Hunter Valley approached me. I've got a mining background. Mate, the CFMEU as it was then, and now the Mining and Energy Union, which is separated out, but they've kept the same union bosses at the head of the company, head of the union. They have been working with global labour hire firms, including the Australian subsidiary wholly owned by the Japan Recruit Holdings, which is the largest labour hire company in the world. They've been colluding with other labour hire firms, Australian firms, to develop enterprise agreements that pay up to $41,000 less than their award entitlement. It is Australia's biggest case of wage theft. Robert Gottliebson has been onto it. We've been pushing this for over 5 years. Mm-hmm. We couldn't get the Liberals interested other than cursorily and dismissively. We couldn't get the Labor Party interested. The Labor Party has been pushing through legislation to cover it up. And what we've succeeded in getting awareness in the Senate after 5 bloody years, the Senate supported a motion calling on requiring the workplace workplace relations Minister Tony Burke to investigate, and they haven't done a bloody thing on it. So this is a collusion, but it also involves the government because it requires the enterprise agreements that are rorting the system. Require agreement between the labour hire firms, their employers, the CFMEU, which has signed at least 5 of these agreements and many more, we believe, and the Fair Work Commission. They're all complicit in this. And as I said, this is Australia's largest wage theft case. Individual miners, we've commissioned an independent report from experts, including, and they
I tell you who might be interested in this. Malcolm, is that reporter from the Sydney Morning Herald, Mackenzie, who's been doing the work against John Setka and the CFMEU.
Well, Mackenzie, Sydney Morning Herald, is he? We'll try him. Thanks for the tip, mate. But we've been finding it very, very difficult because, as Michael West has just written a story in his Michael West News, I think it's called. Yeah. And he's written a story. I've only just started reading it, but he gets off on the wrong foot because he says no one from Canberra is interested. Mate, we've been pushing this for 5 years, more than 5 years. But we've had a lot of difficulty getting anybody from the Mouthpiece Media interested because we believe the Mouthpiece Media is looking after Labor and Liberal and covering it up. Yeah, I mean, we've commissioned studies, we've got independent reports, lay out all the facts that the theft of wages per person per year is up to $41,000.
Amazing stuff. Maybe young Mackenzie at the Sydney Morning Herald is the one to go to because he was the one who initiated the case that was published over the weekend and on 60 Minutes against John Setka and the CFMEU. I'll leave you with that, and thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Malcolm Roberts.
Can I just make one more point, please, Chris?
Please.
Okay, the Independent Workers' Union of Australia has been formed, and it's now pursuing lodging complaints with the Fair Work Ombudsman on behalf of its members, and the people now taking a massive interest in the Independent Workers' Union of Australia because the CFMEU, the Mining and Energy Union, as it now is since they separated, has applied for new enterprise agreements. But the dirty bastards have not sought back pay. So they've admitted, after criticising me for 5 years, they've admitted I am correct, but they have not will not pursue back pay because to do so would show their complicity in the enterprise agreements that currently exist. Yeah. The Independent Workers' Union of Australia is on miners' side. Good people. We'll stick around. We'll be getting more information out about them.
Good stuff. Malcolm Roberts, thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Chris.
Good on you. Appreciate your time here. Queensland Senator for One Nation, Malcolm Roberts. Some very important issues there, covered with the usual expertise in research, as Malcolm Roberts often does. Sometimes he runs rings around those public servants that appear in those Senate committees. And if you watch anything that he does and the way he leads questions in those committee hearings, you'll understand that he knows far more than what those who are charged with these issues in the public service know and should know. We will take a break. You know, at TNT, we never go home. We are committed to bringing you our take on the biggest topics of our time. We broadcast live 24/7, online, globally, no matter what. We've got you covered on today's News Talk TNT.